Welcome to part 2 of the How to Edit Your Novel series. So in the last part, we covered the read-through, which is basically just you sitting down, reading the book, and taking notes. And what we're doing in today's video is going through and rewriting the book. So initially what I had done is I recorded a sprint of me doing an edit, but when I played it back, I realized basically what you see me doing is scrolling through some text and making a couple of tiny changes. So it didn't seem super helpful, so I've cut that out of the video. And what I am showing you is how the notes are getting processed. So it's important for you to understand what I'm doing when I start to edit a scene, which is really just looking at the problems I found in the read-through and making sure those are addressed when I rewrite it. So maybe in a given chapter I need another paragraph of description before it starts. One of the things that I'm very guilty of is starting almost every chapter with a line of dialogue. And so most of the chapters I went through and I added a chapter of kind of scene building where I would describe the character so you knew whose point of view you were in and what their surroundings were like. And that's most of what I did. You'll also see some inaccuracies corrected, some bridge chapters that are added where I'd realized that the segue between one scene to another was too abrupt and needed to be altered. So we're going to go ahead and leap into that. You'll see over the next couple of segments what I did to edit the novel and how we export that to Scrivener so that I can send this off to Tammy, my line editor. And then in next week's video, we will go over her edits to the document and you can see sort of how I work with my editor. Okay, so as you can see, there's quite a bit of a difference now that the first edit is complete. So just to recap, we went through the read-through, and I added a whole bunch of notes, including new chapter headings that I was going to have to add. Then I started on chapter 1, or in this case previously on Void Wraith, which is a recap of the previous book, and I went chapter by chapter, and I integrated each of these notes. So I would read the note, think about how the chapter fit in the plot, and rewrite it accordingly. So for the most part, that meant adding more description, often doing a new intro to each of the chapters, and I went all the way through the book, and this process took me about 5 days, which is a little longer than it normally would, but I had other things going on. So now I've gone from chapter 1 all the way down to my epilogue, and the hard work is more or less done. So this has created for me a draft of the novel that I'm now going to pass off to a line editor, and you can see it's much, much cleaner. So the next step, and you're going to see what this looks like in the next segment of the video, is to go through each of these chapters, give them final chapter headings, and also number them. So right now, none of these have numbers associated with them, like say chapter 1, chapter 2, because as I'm doing this work, I may decide that they're in the wrong order, and so it's nice to be able to just kind of flip one chapter with another. And if they're numbered, and I found this with my first novel, I'd have to keep changing the numbers as I move chapters around. So now, I don't add those chapters until the end. And that's what I'm going to do now, and what you're going to see in the next section of the video is the final clean version. We'll export that into a readable format, and then I'm going to bundle up this Scrivener file and I'm going to send it to my line editor. So you can sort of see how I've processed all the edits, what the packaging will look like when I'm done, and what the export process looks like, and then it's off to the editor. Okay, now as you can see, I've now numbered all of these chapters, and this is kind of the final presentation that I sent off to Tammy, my line editor, and we'll see what she does with that in the next video. But for now, I've got pretty much every chapter where I want it to be. Some of the names are going to change. That's one of the last things I do as a final pass, is just tweak some of the names that don't fit, or maybe they give more spoilers than I want them to. So we will do that. For now, though, it's basically done, and so all I want to do is compile it. So some of you are not familiar with Scrivener, most of you are. You set your cover, which has already been done. I make sure that my separators are changed to a section break so that it doesn't put just a little number sign. It actually creates a new page at the end of every chapter. You can choose what your contents are going to be. So which documents do I want in here? Sometimes you'll have a notes document that you don't want included. And then the last thing that I double check is the formatting. So you'll see all these turn yellow. These are all the chapters of the book. How are these presented? And right now they don't have the title in front of the chapter, so we're going to change that right now. So I click title and it adds it down here. I'm going to go ahead and left justify that just because I like that. Make it bold. And then for section layout, I'm going to give it a suffix of 2 enter characters. And so this is what you end up with. I now have a title, and that's going to be the chapter title, the name of the document. And then I have a couple spaces before the text starts, and we'll see what that looks like after we've compiled. So I'm making an EPUB, which is the format accepted by both Amazon and Apple at this point. Amazon will convert this into a Mobi format file, but you can upload this version of it and they'll take care of the work for you. So Scrivener's almost done doing its thing. I've got my little beach ball. Go ahead and open up my Dropbox where it'll save, and you'll see it appear here. Let's go by date modified, void wraith. So you can see I've got several void wraiths as I've opened various versions of it. We now have a chapter headings in our table of contents that it's created for us. I didn't have to do any of that. And it goes all the way through the book, your dedication, and then this is what our chapters are going to look like. So I'll go a little deeper in. Here's our prologue, and then chapter 1, and so on and so forth. So you can see that the book is basically formatted. I've done most of the heavy lifting. There will be a little bit of tweaking before I put this out, but now I've done the basic work that needs to be completed to make this into a real ebook. So all I do at this point is package up the document and send it off to Tammy. That's what's going to happen next. And then she'll get the document back to me. It's going to be marked up all over the place. She'll get out her teacher's red pen. And we're going to go through in the next video what she does for a line edit and sort of how I integrate that stuff. But for now, that takes care of the initial one pass that I've done for editing. You've sort of seen the complete versions of how I do that pass, and hopefully that is helpful. So if this video is helpful, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'd greatly appreciate that. Or maybe tell a friend.